Okay, we're going to start soon.
Hi, Yosef.
Hello, we will start. It's 10:34. Maybe we'll give it one more minute.
Okay, I'm here. I have an unstable Wi-Fi connection, so I'm probably gonna keep my video off because that
Um,
seems to give better results.
we've got agendas. As you can see, the room is filled here in person.
Yeah, I see. Is there anybody other than you?
James is here,
Okay.
and James is here.
Uh-huh. Hello, James.
Hello,
Nice to see you.
nice to be seen. Nice to see you too.
All
Okay,
right. Oh,
great.
wait a second. Here we go.
Oh,
Hi.
you exist.
I exist. I exist. Greetings from Nashville, Tennessee.
Very nice. Why
Okay.
don't we start for everyone who is here on time?
Sounds good to me.
No objections to that for those that are here?
No, I'm not going to be able to take minutes though. I did take minutes the last two meetings and
Yeah, no,
Rotorezzo.
got
I
it.
can take minutes, but I do have to leave early.
Okay.
Wait,
So,
Like
the
about,
only thing is I could try to do it on my computer. Let me see if I can do, let me at least get myself ready so that when you do
I
leave,
have a computer being delivered this afternoon,
okay,
so
so that when you do have to
don't
leave,
want this.
I I will be able to take over. Give me half a second for that. Setup. Okay, so I will try to take over when you leave, and then you'll just email me and I'll add the two together.
Okay,
Perfect. Okay. So without further ado, 10:36. We're calling this meeting to order. I am Yosef Kalinsky. I am the Assistant Chair of the Committee for Concerns of the Aging, and we welcome everyone who is here. Typically, we do introductions, but it looks like this is a group that knows each other. So I'm not sure if we really need to do that right now. Um, Other than obviously to jump in and to introduce our presenter. But I'm just looking at Ashley, Carol, Toby, Mary. We're all returnees over here. This is our group. So I'm filling in for Mary, who's in a warmer place, I'm assuming, and we wish her well. And why don't we start and then we'll get into reports later on from those of you who have joined us. I'll just also, I guess, point out that the Zoom option is definitely still very helpful for those that are joining us from other places, and we'll have to figure out if we do want to come to you and for a one of the senior centers for maybe the I don't know if it's going to be on the April meeting, but maybe we can get one in before the end of the season. We'll see where that goes. Okay, with that, I want to introduce our presenter today, Barbara Baer. She's the Director of the Home Sharing Program, New York Foundations for Senior Citizens. And I'm sure there's a lot more that comes with that title that she's going to be sharing with us. So, Barbara, why don't you please open up for us?
Well, thank you, Rabbi Kalinsky. I mean, mostly what comes with the title is a lot of hard work, answering the phone, being daunted by the issues that seniors have, by their lack of income, and by the lack of affordable housing and inflationary prices. So that's that they don't write that in the job request, but that's the deal. So good morning, everyone. And I was actually thinking about commuting up, but I had the pleasure of going out to Flushing, Queens yesterday to interview someone, and I got actually totally soaked. And I went to the wrong subway station before I went to the right one. And so the cab driver took me through Jamaica Estates, and he pointed out where Donald Trump grew up. So I had a really thrilling ride. And then I had an interview with a 96-year-old woman who, after she got me out there, said, well, she didn't know if she wanted to home share. So all in all, it was a pretty terrific experience. But what I learned seriously in terms of my job is that, and I always knew it, but sometimes I forget, every community is its own community. Your community is fabulous. We have a host who's looking for someone, and we have guests who live in your community, and it's a beautiful community. And so what we need to do more in home sharing is recognize that there's loads of different communities and there's loads of different needs. And I hope that this few-minute talk will inspire you to help us find some hosts. We always are happy to have guests, but we really need more places to live until the legislature passes the 800,000 bill that's going to build 800,000 units of affordable housing, kind of waiting. And so basically, I'm Director of Home Sharing. I spent my life truly, really trying to help seniors. I'm a lawyer, I'm a social worker, blah, blah, blah. But late in life, Linda Hoffman, the president, invited me back to work here. And so I've been working on home sharing, which is very much a social work advocacy program, and basically really helps seniors. So here's the way it works. The New York Foundation for Seniors has a mission of keeping seniors at home until there's no way out. And so there's a plethora of programs, from respite care to guardianship to conservatorship to transportation to actually housing developments. And I'm sure you all know that all the affordable housing units that are built are filled. And we have lotteries, and people wait 4 or 5 years to get on the lottery. So what's going on in the housing market is a total problem for seniors. So we have all of that. And about 40 years ago, the president, Linda Hoffman, who probably some of you have met, decided.
I think she was here last year.
Okay, so then you've definitely met her. So anyhow, we started to do home sharing, and it's been a successful boutique program. That is to say, over the years, we've matched a couple of thousand people. And this year, our trajectory is that we'll do about 30 matches, which is teeny. tiny, small, but for the 60 people who we match, and it takes a lot of work, because every person has their own, his or her own idiosyncratic behavior. 60 people who might have lost their house, might have lost their apartment, now have enough not to be evicted, or as a guest who would maybe go in a shelter. One or two of them would go into a nursing home. Um, and some of them would just be homeless. They have a safe place to live. So when it works, it's fabulous. Sometimes it doesn't work and it's really heartbreaking. And I'll just give you quickly how we vet people, because what's different about us is that we have social workers, some of whom are licensed, who actually vet people. So if one applies either as a host or a guest, oh, Richard Allman is trying to connect. I know him, he's a nice man. So in any event, both the host and the guest have to get 3 letters of reference, not from friends or family. Submit them, we check them, and then we have and they also have to submit proof of income and photo ID. And in these matches, we try, and usually we succeed, that one person has to be 60, because our goal is to keep seniors at home, but the other person has to be 18 or over. So after we get the letters of reference, check them, check the photo ID, make sure they have enough income to pay. Then we have a 40-minute session where we have the same questions, same 40 scripted questions that we ask everybody. And after we get the answers, we actually have a bit of a digital setup. We look and we see who we can match. For example, someone called the other day, and this doesn't go along with the 60 years old rule, but a home health attendant who works 5 days a week, 24 hours a day at someone's home, and whose husband is in college in Philadelphia, was looking for a place to stay, and she has an 18-month-old baby. So I actually went to the digital and said, is there anybody who's applied who would take a baby? And there was this one lovely woman who has an 18-month-old baby. And so I called her, and they're going to talk, and perhaps the woman who needs just the weekend, and the woman who probably could use a little help and would be happy to have someone at her apartment will match. And, the woman who is a home health attendant, as you all well know, excuse me, is not so well paid. So that would be great. And in Washington Heights, there was a woman who had a lovely apartment who honestly was going to lose it if we didn't find someone. And so I actually came up there and we matched her with another person who works for the MTA. And so she's doing well. So that's the deal. And that's the elevator speech. And I guess, you're all pretty sophisticated community government elites. And so, I ask you if you, have any ideas how we can sort of get through to the community, or where we could go to try to get some help to get some hosts. That's what we need. And we're by the way, we're trying to expand the program. We're trying to do a lot more, but we communicating to a city of 8 million is pretty hard. So, we don't have millions of dollars to go on television. So a lot of it is on Google, which works, but we could do much better if we had more money, and we could do much better, I think, if we were statewide, because other cities probably could use it. It's a program that makes an incredible amount of sense. It's not for everybody, but it really helps people who are lessors on apartments, who own their houses, or who are desperate. And many of the women who apply are retired, and their total income is $973. I think this is because women, as we all know, take time off to have children, have lower paying jobs, and also probably worked off the books. So there's many who come here who have no family, no support, and there's $900. So trying to match them is pretty hard, and sometimes we can and sometimes we can't.
Yeah, Liz, I see your hand. I just wanted to make one comment if I can first. Uh, for those for those of us who are a little bit aware of technology and things of that sort, what comes to my mind is Airbnb, right? Which connects people who want to rent out
Mhm.
a home, a room, whatever it is, and that's a successful business.
Mhm.
Uh, is are you and it has a platform.
Mhm.
Is there any way that you can also use your services in a similar type of a platform where you have, and do you have an active website where people can come to search this?
Rabbi, we do have an active website, but your question's excellent, and uh, and we don't have an answer yet. One of our problems is that given the necessity of our program that and we hold ourselves to a high standard of safety and a
No,
really good there
right.
comes a
Is there a
moment
way?
early on in the program where the license or the social worker, I'm a social worker, but I didn't bother going to get my tests, but
Yeah.
whatever. But the social worker really has to sort of carry the ball and actually figure out how to match. And I myself have been encouraging us, although I haven't exactly won yet. But I noticed in some other programs, by the way, there's 70 programs across the country. Some of the programs do a lot more of everything online. It's almost like a dating match. So you give all
Correct.
your, yeah, and you give everything, and then
Checks and
people's,
balances
yeah.
would require, is there some way to somehow either create a similar platform or somehow to have a conversation with, if you have an in somehow, with maybe even those that do own Airbnb, and
Yeah,
to
it's a
make
good
a
idea.
subset. Again, it would require a lot of
Hmm.
connections to get that doing. But I'm just trying to think of ways that, like, if they had a sister website or another portal or
Hmm.
something, it just that seems to be the model that works for people these days.
Yeah, you're right. And actually, a friend of mine called and asked me to help with with a government issue. So I don't know. I referred them to someone, but this person was calling to say that because of the New York City rules, apparently there's only 400 or 500 Airbnbs available in New York City. That the rest are not advertised. Not true?
I can't imagine that to be true.
Yeah, I guess those are the ones who have been sanctioned by the city, and others are not. But in any event, I think your point about Airbnb is well taken. And by the way, some of the problem of getting more shares in Manhattan is that some of the people actually understand that if they share, rent, whatever you want to call it, uh, if they do that as a host for Airbnb, they make a lot more money. So it that is especially true on the east side and west side of Manhattan. That people have told me, no, I can keep a person in the apartment for a week and uh, bring in a decent amount of income. So, I mean, that's fair. That's if that's what they need to do. This is more a longer term. We hope people will share for 6 months to a year and at least, and we have a decent amount of success that people are there for 2 years, and that really saves an incredible amount of government money. Because really, in fact, once what we think at this point is that the match costs $12,000 to match the two people from our administrative cost. That's the whole. You say it's a lot? No. If you think about a person going in a shelter, a nursing home, getting Section 8, uh, getting FEPS, getting a one-time deal, it's peanuts. And part
Can I
of
ask a question?
sure.
Thanks. So I actually know a little something about Airbnb because I've got a bunch of friends who do that.
Mhm.
It's a great model, but it's a very, very different model. And it has a whole other set of risks and rewards. So while it's
Mhm.
true that someone, if they're going the Airbnb route, they can potentially make a lot of money The
Mhm.
licensing in New York City is very different. It's a whole thing. It's a pretty high bar. And I
Mhm.
think your average elderly person is not necessarily going to want to have, that many strangers coming through their homes.
Mhm. Mhm.
My question is,
Sure.
do you work at all with local real estate brokers? Because it seems to me there are, some real estate agencies are much more commercially driven, but there are
Mhm.
a lot of local agencies that are very community oriented.
Mhm.
They're single shop operations. All of the people who work there as brokers live in the community,
Mhm.
and they might um, know people who have like these larger apartments that they are reluctant to move out of because they can't find anything that is really affordable. That
Mhm.
something that's smaller would cost more, so there's no savings
Right.
there, and might be really good candidates for hosting. So,
Mhm.
like in our community, the Matthew Pizarro Agency, very community oriented. Um,
What's the name of it? What's
just
the name of it?
Matthew Bizzarro,
Okay.
Bizzarro.
Mhm.
There's also, oh goodness, I'm blanking on his name right now. Rob Kleinbart on 207th Street.
Mhm.
Um, so I would suggest starting in our community with those two, but in residential communities, Queens, Brooklyn, Harlem, there are lots of like local people who I suspect might know, not droves of people, but some. And if,
Right.
you're saying you're making 30 matches, if you pick up one or two,
Right. So when we had a bit more money, first of all, your point's well taken, and once in a while a real estate agency does call, and then they're
mhm,
very glad to have our information, but we haven't gone to them. Maybe we should consider it, but at a certain point, maybe 2 years ago, when we had some more money, we had done a mailing of about 60,000 cards. We went back to the census and to the voter rolls, and we looked for people who in different communities who would be likely to have a second room that would be vacant. And the mailing did bring in some hosts, some, especially in Queens, people seem to be interested. And uh, so you're right, it's the right track. The question is how to reach out and how to be successful.
thank you.
I have a question.
Sure, go ahead, James. Thank you.
Just as Liz mentioned, Rob Kleinbart in Inwood, his real estate agency is actually New Heights. So if you're going to look for that agency, New Heights Realty on
Okay.
207th Street. But my
Okay.
Thank
question
you
is,
for that, James.
do you have any social media presence? I mean, especially for younger homeowners they might be on social media. I don't know about the
We do
older
have
folks.
some Facebook and yes, we do.
Okay.
And we have an active Google site, but it could be better, but we have some. And then from time to time, we get newspaper coverage. And so quite honestly, our budget was cut for whatever reason. And so a lot of the actual advertising had to leave. So we do have some, but I'm not sure it's enough.
And if someone wants to reach you, what's the best way to do that?
Well, the best way is probably if you want to reach me, you can just call me. I'll give you the phone number. It's
Well,
it's
your agency, your
There's
family.
a website.
Yeah.
I put the website on the minutes
Oh, you
here.
did? Okay.
Yeah.
oh yeah. And yeah, the New York Foundation for Seniors. I'm at extension 247. I'm always happy to talk and always happy to get some suggestions. I'll look up the real estate person, and I would, just hope that if there's anybody who you think, or is there any particular housing development that you think would be more open to us, going to talk to them, or any of that? Okay, so that's it. I thank you. I thank you for all you're doing. You know, seniors are really suffering, and so I'm glad you're all on the committee. And unfortunately, what I hear is a real, an incredible need by seniors, and then a real sort of sadness that seniors express that so much money is going to migrants and they can't get any. And I'm for funding the migrants, but I also wish there were more for seniors, and I wish that earlier in life people would think about what's going to happen when they're 72 or something. And sometimes I get a call and I think, you know, how did you get here? How did it get so awful for you? So whatever you do, I thank you, and I thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Okay.
for coming.
Okay,
Great
nice to talk to you.
program.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay. I think, you know, for many of us, this was the second time hearing about this program, and its positive nature for both the seniors and for the roommates or apartment mates that they're able to connect together, and we only wish that they're able to expand their services. It sounds like it's a very important need and can create much benefit. And just living in 2024, there must be better ways to get the word out to make this happen. More heads got around this. Liz, is that a hand or just?
Yeah, it's a new hand. I'm just thinking that might not be a terrible idea if we proactively dropped off the minutes of this meeting highlighted to, you know, once we have the minutes, I'm happy to send them to Bizarro. And if James, you wanted to drop them off with Rob and just be like, hey, here's this thing that you may not know about and might be interesting.
Okay. Sounds like something we could do.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, so anything else? We're now up to the old business part. Anything else that was discussed previously, or we could usually, as we do this with the new business, anything to share in from our friends out in the fields and the centers for this group? Anything new going on? Anything coming statewide that would be helpful for us to spend a few minutes discussing?
Yosef, can you just let us know what was the vote on the reso last month?
It passed. What you want to know?
Excellent.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I don't remember what the exact, but yes, last
It was
month, President did pass.
Yes, it
There
passed.
was one abstention.
The seniors in prison,
Yes.
things like that. I forgot exactly the language.
Thank you.
Yes. Anything else, other that is all business, I'm just gonna add that to the minutes over here. I'm trying to do both at the same time. Reso passed, and that was welcomed very, very well by the board. Anything else related for others to share? Everyone still didn't have their second cup of coffee yet, I guess.
I am literally on my second cup of coffee right now.
I'm waiting for you to finish.
It's 9:30 here.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm just trying, is there anything for us to report back in? I missed half of the general board meeting. Was anything else exciting to happen? We did the Dyckman Scholars. That's always exciting at the beginning of the meeting.
Dyckman Scholars. We have 3 new outlets for cannabis in the
I was gonna
neighborhood.
say
was
that,
a
right?
big,
And that's interesting. It's an interesting conversation. Do we have the impact on the legalization of cannabis in terms of our senior community? Is there anything specific? It's probably more it might be more in the medical areas, or who knows, even for recreational. If there is what to discuss there, That's interesting because that's generally a hot topic. I'll just only because it's the parentheses over here. For those of you in the centers, is there any impact in terms of your clients and the legalization of marijuana in New York?
I see a hand. Is that a hand?
No, that's not a hand. That's this. Oh, that's the one over there, actually. Okay. I'm all for moving forward if there's nothing else to share. I have on the next month, we're supposed to have a presentation that's set up already from Danielle Gagné, the president of the State Society for the Aging. I was trying to do a little research on online. Anyone familiar with Danielle? She seems to be a professor of psychology as well.
Oh, no.
Okay, looks like this is a society, unless I'm on the wrong website over here. Let me just see if I have anything else from Mary related to this. Give me 1 second. Okay. Did Richard never made it on?
Yeah, I see him.
We're missing Richard.
Yeah, he said something in the chat that he was trying to get
Yeah.
on, which is weird because if he was able to access the chat, then he was on, but then he disappeared.
Uh-huh. Um, Here. Here, I have an email from Mary. She got confirmation, states that I have the aging thanks to Richard's assistance. So he's not here, but he assisted for the April presentation. But she didn't give me more background in terms of that specific presentation. Are there any other topics that anyone else also wants to bring up that we should try to get to in the coming months?
I think some kind of budget update would be helpful. We keep on hearing from different agency folks and people who are working in the aging space. You know, our funding got cut, money is going to these other places, not to us. If there's somebody from, you know, DIFTA who could possibly come and talk about sort of the financial landscape, because that's going to be I mean, if we have an on-time budget, we'll have the budget from the state and we'll be going into budget negotiations for the city. Excuse me, that might be an interesting topic. You know, somebody from DIFTA or from the state, or, you know, even one of our, do we have any elected officials who sit on an aging committee?
No.
Okay. So somebody with expertise in this area who could maybe guide us on what our budget concerns and priorities might be in the current landscape. That's a little vague, I know. But I just feel like it's certainly a gap in my knowledge, and the beginning of April feels like the right time to be wrapping our heads around this, since the state budget will have just come out.
Okay, so that you're suggesting this for April?
Yeah. Well, we could also do it in May because our meetings are so early in the month. So if we don't have room on the April agenda and we're shopping for things for the May agenda, that could be a thing.
Okay, I will share that with Mary. Any other things that anyone to report back in, or any other topics that people would like to hear more about, or anyone on the Zoom who would like to present at an upcoming meeting on something that is and they're working on that they would like to share with the larger group more than just the chatting, but some sort of presentation on things. Or have you had any interesting presentations in any of your centers that you think would be worthwhile for us to share here more broadly?
One thing we discussed at the last meeting was trying to hold our committee meetings at the various
Yes.
centers around.
Correct.
Any movement has been made on that idea.
Well, why don't we do that right now? We have a few minutes. Is there any either objection or acceptance to hosting the next meeting in one of your centers? I have to obviously check with Mary and with the board, but assuming that we can move on our end, Beniz is here, and be able to set up a Zoom link with the Wi-Fi and anything else that's necessary, and try to bring out as many of your constituents who would show up on a Thursday morning at 10:30 to chat with new friends. I definitely personally would be happy to go to a different location.
Carol,
Carol, you're raising your hand to host, or you want to say something?
We've done it in the past, and we certainly would love to do it again.
Okay.
At
So
your,
there-
whatever month you say, the month of March, the calendar's gone out, so I would say maybe April or May. We've
meeting
always
is April
done it, and I think it works nicely.
April 4th.
You want us to do it April 4th?
Or does that? I mean, for everyone else, they're going to be joining on Zoom probably. I assume, unless then we can get more of you to show up. And we'll do it in your main area and social area for us to gather. You have a side room.
In the big dining room, we always did it, and we even gave out a few refreshments.
Do you
Okay.
have strong enough Wi-Fi to support the owl and all that jazz?
We have it. I would really have to ask the technician. I know that we are going to have it strengthened. So,
Okay, so that's a fantastic offer, and I love the idea of having the meeting off-site. But I would suggest, and I know this
confirm.
is a bit of an extra lift, not only to confirm, but for somebody.
Check it
and
out.
I hate to make a suggestion when I am not able to do what I'm suggesting. If I were home, I would totally do this, but I'm not in New York. But I think that anywhere, any offsite place that we have it, it's probably worth a brief investment of time to take the equipment there, see if it hooks up and if it works, and just like make sure that that's a viable venue. Because then if it is, it makes it a lot easier on the day of the meeting. And if it's not, then, we save ourselves a lot of hassle. But if it does work, then we can just have that venue in the rotation, and like once a year or once every 6 months, have that meeting there. And we know this is a viable venue.
that's a wonderful suggestion. But
Thank you.
Thank you. I would think that to get all our ducks in order, maybe April is a little too soon for that. So
Let's see what we could do. Ebenezer, yeah, would you be able to summon from the office to do it? This is the Dyckman Center, right?
that's correct.
Right.
3754 10th Avenue is the address. Oh,
Yes, Rabbi Kalinsky,
Yeah.
I at least say what I raised my hand to say. It was wonderful, to rotate that. More than happy to do it, but we need to go do a site visit to test the Wi-Fi on site, and also where the equipment gonna be installed.
Yeah. Okay.
More than happy to go. Give me the address. I can go to the scout in advance before we put it on the calendar.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly.
Need to be tested
Exactly.
in advance.
Yeah, so I have a question following up on that. you know, not to impose on your gracious hosting, but if it turns out, Carol, that this is a viable venue, would the board possibly be able to use it not just for the occasional aging committee, but for other committees?
Yes,
They meet, they meet in the evening, is the only thing. I don't know if that's a possibility, but you know, the board, Ebenezer can speak to this, but the board is always looking for places that are accessible, centrally located, and have good Wi-Fi. So it would be amazing if this works and can be added to the roster for other meetings as well.
I think it would be a wonderful thing for our members. So the answer is definitely yes. And we have another community opportunity that we have going. So it's not an unusual thing, and I think it would be great.
Yeah.
Yes,
Would you be so kind to give me your
But I'm
contact
telling you,
information?
I'm a little nervous about the equipment. You know, now I know that Spectrum has promised to come and improve it, make it stronger and more efficient. So that's why I say I'm backing off a little bit in April, because they haven't given me a date yet, but they're coming to do that in the centers, and because we're a NYCHA building. So the answer is yes, and thanks for suggesting it.
Okay, so we're gonna leave it as, let's see if within the next 2 weeks or so, you know, before the general meeting, we can get an answer, yes or no. And if yes, yes, and if no, no. And if and no might be later, not a hard no.
Right, that would be perfect. So all I'll expect then, Ebenezer, you'll give me a call when you want to come over or do it by road. We'll be in touch, correct?
Yes, I will call you. I need your phone number.
212-569-7790.
7792
No, 7790.
or 90.
90.
Yes, okay. I
Now,
will call you. I'm gonna bring, you know, a computer and an owl and see how the thing works there, okay?
Okay, good.
Okay.
Well, okay.
Great,
You have another hand up.
No, I
So-
put it down.
go ahead. She's,
No.
no, she's muted. Toby, do you want to say something?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay. So on the one hand, Miriam and I have been private texting because we have a lot of potential content that could be considered relevant to the aging committee that we can present on and find others to present on. She reminded me that some time ago, one of my team members, Ashton Stewart, and I both presented to the community board, and there was a resolution, and it was on caring for the LGBTQ elder community and veterans and cultural sensitivity. I have a question. So we could do a lot of things. We could even do a series. We could do how to help people understand how to access resources when appropriate, when facing serious illness. Nice way of saying how to access and understand hospice and palliative care. We could do something on advanced directives and the imperative of doing it sooner rather than later, and demystify the challenges attached to it. That would be 2. We also do programs on legacy work and reconciliation, and that looks different depending on the audience. But many people are isolated. The older population are often isolated or not living in close proximity to family. And they don't always communicate their wishes to their family members. So there's legacy work. But here's my questions, and we're always there. We're always willing to present, and we could do it in multiple languages depending on the setting. Here's my question. We have experienced over the many years that we're doing this work, and more so really since COVID and post-COVID, that senior centers and organizations often look to fill their calendar with programs. But there's a disconnect between scheduling a program and actually owning the responsibility or being accountable for making sure people come to participate in the program. And, you know, we see it even with these meetings. There's more people that are going to join virtually than in person. So the question is, how do we cultivate a measure of ownership and accountability when we plan programs to bring out into the community? And what do we do about making sure that there's follow-up? Right? So I gave you an example of a presentation that's easy enough for us to do, which is on advanced directives, healthcare proxies, living wills. But it becomes more valuable if there's a follow-up program with people who actually execute healthcare proxies. So I said a lot, but to boil it down to the quick, short question is, how do we build a measure of collaboration and ownership of the responsibility to make presentations and programs successful so that it stays within the community and within the audience, and it's not just something to fill a time slot? Does that resonate with you? Because this is something we see all the time.
Liz, you want to say something?
Yeah. So I think that we all struggle with this. There are any number of organizations or committees on the board that plan a thing and, you know, it's a quality program and nobody shows up. And the things that have been successful and well attended are the things that, in addition to being in and of themselves interesting and well organized, are done well enough in advance that there's the opportunity to publicize it, and where people actually publicize it, get out there and flyer and send emails and whatever. So I would say probably the easiest way to do that is, instead of having one-off individual things, have like a series of 3 things, because then you've got one flyer with, like, we've got this thing in March, this thing in April, this thing in May, and then you can keep sending. You don't have to reinvent the publicity materials. You just, right. But then
we're of the same minds. We're of the same mindset. We do that.
Yeah,
we always do that. But I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Finish. I'm sorry.
That's okay. But when there's somebody who, or several somebodies who is able to actively communicate that event or that series of events to their email lists, their personal networks, their social media, whatever, and people who are physically going around the community and posting things, you know, old school flyers, a little tedious, a little time consuming, but it's incredibly effective. That helps to build audience. We've had job fairs and education fairs and forums on cannabis and forums on licensing issues that have attracted hundreds of people. So it's doable, but it assumes that people are heavily invested in marketing those programs. It's not just sending an email to your list. One of the things that I was thinking as you were prior to when you started talking, and then as you were talking, is when I chaired the Parks and Cultural Affairs Committee, one of the things that I added as a standing item to the agenda was like a roundtable of updates from local organizations. And it seems to me that if one of the things that we added to the agenda of the Aging Committee was like a 10 or 15-minute slot for these kinds of informational programming updates, where it sounds like you have that kind of programming readily available that you can share without a lot of preparation because it exists. You've already done conversations about.
We just craft it. We always craft everything to the audience we're speaking to.
Sure.
And we refresh it. But yeah,
but you're not starting totally from
No.
scratch.
No.
And so it would be, I'm noticing a trend here in this meeting that we spend a fair amount of time crowdsourcing. What are we going to do at our next meeting or at the next meeting after that? If we had like a standing item on the agenda, Yosef, I don't know if this idea appeals to you or if it would appeal to Mary, but if we had a standing item on the agenda, it seems to me like there are enough organizations in the community who could do not a long presentation, a medium presentation about what their agency is offering or what is an important item for the aging community, whether it's Hearts in the Aging or living wills or doula end of life issues or what have you.
Yeah, everything you said makes sense. There are just some topics that give people the heebie-jeebies. And that's why we don't call everything what they really are, because it would scare people off. So that's one piece. The relevance, yeah.
I'm weird. I like talking about death because I think it's always good to be prepared, and I always learn things. But yes, it freaks most people out.
Okay, well, you're a little bit younger than some of the older folks who's like, maybe another time.
I have a cousin who will not let me visit because I am the person who chairs the families. We have a large family circle, and I'm responsible for writing the permits for the cemetery. And her sister's like, yeah, this is completely irrational and I don't understand it, but she doesn't want to see you because she thinks if you show up in her house, it means she's going to die.
Right. Yeah.
So
all I'm saying is I'm not saying that anyone should not present or that we wouldn't want to present, but I do think that as a committee, we also have an obligation to compel others that we collaborate with to take on the burden of responsibility to ensure that there is success, right?
Yes.
At the end of the day, we got to work together or it's not going to happen. We realized also something that depending on the organization you present to, food keeps people around, right? So if you present after lunch, you're going to have an empty room. If you present before lunch when they're waiting for their meal, you got a full audience. So there's all these different little things that happen. At the end of the day, it's a crapshoot. But I think that if it was part of the relationship requirement that we each do our part, whoever we are, that would help. There's a responsibility that all players have to ensure a measure of success and the effort and energy that goes into bringing a program to the community.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So where does that leave us in terms of decision here?
Always have food.
I guess I'd have more people in the room with me right now.
I think where it puts us is to think strategically. So there's two pieces. You asked, does anybody have presentations they want to offer? That's one piece, right? And we could keep a roster of organizations and individuals who have topics, and that could be put together as a chart for different organizations to select from, perhaps. But then the other side is, what do we do? Responsibility. What do we do? What kind of a checklist of items do we put together that when a presentation, when people are invited or an organization is invited to present, that there's a level of responsibility on the other side as well. You know, that it becomes part and parcel of engagement. That's my suggestion.
Okay,
That makes sense.
are you willing to own trying to collect the list for us? And that's something that we could be doing in between meetings and then report back at the next meeting in theory.
You mean a list of presentations or a list of expectations?
Presentations, expectations, I think we could, yeah, I mean, you could do both, but I would first, I think people would be more interested in topics of presentations as opposed to, as pointed out, that we kind of like, gets a little bit hazy over here when we do that. It should be a little more organized and we shouldn't have to catch people off guard.
Well, it's easy enough to do if we have, if I don't hold, I'm not the keeper of the list. If there's a list of members of Community Board 12, then it's easy enough to put together a letter and send it, e-blast it to everyone to send back suggestions of topics of interest and content expertise for presentations that they have ready to go. And that way we have, you know, a more robust.
Is that Community Board 12 or is that specifically our committee?
I don't have an answer to that.
Say we could just send it to everyone, or we could just say keep it with this and within, we could do both.
Yeah.
Is Ebenezer still on? You know, that's something that should come from the office.
I think that feels like something that should go to everybody in the committee, and then you or Mary should maybe synopsize a blurb to go in our CB newsletter that goes to all of the members. Because I'm not sure that it makes a lot of sense to solicit that, because if every committee did that, there'd be chaos. But I think
it's not a big deal. I'm thinking more like someone could put together just a Google form and have it go out to everyone who's typically comes to our meetings, and with a suggestion box, and then collect it all, and then, you know, talk about it at the next meeting even. I don't know, it's not such a complicated thing to do. Is that in line with what we're thinking, or you're saying something else, Toby or Liz?
I think what you're saying makes sense. I'm not a Google Docs. I'm a tech nerd, not a tech savvy nerd. So I don't have a problem.
The tech side takes 5 seconds. It's just getting out a link and people just filling out community. I think it should be, Liz, we could talk about this offline maybe. I think it's a few questions, right? It's what are the community needs for this population? And the other one is, what are the presentations that might relate to those needs? They don't have to be the same thing.
Right.
That's two different things. And then the third box is who could present on those topics that you would suggest. And then the expectation piece, I think, is separate. You know, that's something we just draw up and we share with those who are, you know, participating in the conversations.
Right. So I think what makes sense is that's a conversation that we have within the committee. And then that question or series of questions gets synopsized and sent out as, you know, in our next CB12M newsletter, not a direct email to each of the CB12 members. That feels like a very good use of our newsletter, because it's doing two things. It's actually asking
are there people who have particular areas of expertise that they would like to, and the willingness to share that in this context? But it also just generally advertises, this is a thing we're thinking about, and this is a set of concerns that, believe it or not, concerns you, either because you're aging, or you know somebody who is, or you're going to get there eventually yourself.
I have a feeling the chair would be excited to hear about this type of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so fine, okay, and then you're saying, share the link also with everyone in this group, with the community board, and then report back to everybody else what the results are. Share, I'm just trying to also keep notes at the same time.
Right.
Share this. And there. Okay. Anything else anyone wants to say while I'm typing this up?
No. Seems like it is a very quick and efficient meeting.
I'm totally down for that. So next meeting is April 4th. We will just find out, to be determined, where the meeting is going to be, coming to you soon, even though I guess the majority of you are going to be wherever you want to be because you're going to be joining on Zoom. But if you do want to show up in person, they had refreshments. And as we said, Carol's refreshments are going to bring more people in person. And other than that, I guess someone could second me, but I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 10:34.
I would second that.
And we will see everybody soon.
Cool. Thank you so much. And I think it's 11:34. I mean, by me, it's 10:34, but by you, it's 11:34.
Well, you had to adjourn it at the right time.
Yes. All righty. Exactly 60 minutes after we began, we are adjourned. Thank you so